Welcome to North Carolina's Working with Real Estate Agents conversational overview. Please listen closely to this disclaimer. This video is intended solely to complement the dialogue between prospective customers and their real estate agents. It is not a substitute for a direct, personalized discussion with your agent. Instead, it serves as an additional reference point to the Working with Real Estate Agents brochure and disclosure. Your agent should provide you with the brochure prior to viewing this video and assist with any questions you may have regarding its content. Please consult the brochure and engage in open communication with your agent for a thorough understanding of your rights and responsibilities in working with real estate professionals. This video is led by the AI twin of Yahweh, the principal broker of Nobilis Realty, along with her AI friends. Thanks for joining. Please hold or write down your questions until the end of this video overview. Let's get started.
When buying or selling real estate, you may find it helpful to have a real estate agent assist you. Real estate agents can provide many useful services and work with you in different ways. In some real estate transactions, the agents work only for the seller. In other transactions, the seller and buyer may each have their own agents. And sometimes the same agent or firm works for both the buyer and the seller in the same transaction. It is important for you to know whether an agent is representing you as your agent or simply assisting you while acting as an agent of the other party. For your protection, do not share any confidential information with the real estate agent or assume that the agent is acting on your behalf until you have officially entered into a written agreement with the agent to represent you. Otherwise, the agent can share your confidential information with others, and this could hurt your ability to negotiate the best deal. For example, let's imagine for a second that you started talking to an agent about selling your home. You have an idea about where the market will price your home, but you are wanting a quick sale because you need to relocate or downsize. If you start telling the agent, whom you have not hired yet, intimate details such as the lowest amount you will take, you may have just hurt your chances of negotiating the best deal because if you decide not to hire the agent, he or she could share that information with potential buyers and other agents, who will likely suggest their interested buyers make lower offers.
As long as your home is prepared appropriately, presented well, and priced competitively, a serious buyer will often submit an offer close to or matching your asking price. However, they may submit a lower offer if they have advanced knowledge of your bottom line, shared with them by the agent who had no agreement with you.
To assist buyers and sellers in understanding the roles of real estate agents, the North Carolina Real Estate Commission requires agents in sales transactions to review the Working with Real Estate Agents disclosure. This information must be discussed at first substantial contact before an agent can ask for or receive your confidential information. Also, the agent must give you a copy of the disclosure form after you sign it. The disclosure form is not a contract, but it is for your education and protection, and signing it is simply acknowledging that the agent discussed the information with you.
This conversational version of the Working with Real Estate Agents brochure assumes that you are a prospective seller and answers common questions about the various types of agency relationships that may be available to you.
It is designed specifically to help you decide which relationship you want to have with a real estate agent, as well as provide useful information about the various services real estate agents can provide buyers and sellers. Also, covered in this video is an explanation on how real estate agents are paid, as well as frequently asked questions. Important note about racial equality and fair housing. The Commission is committed to the principles of excellence, fairness, and respect for all people. It is our goal to ensure that brokerage activities are conducted in fairness to all and to end discrimination in the sale or rental of all real estate. In residential sales and rental transactions, agents must comply with the Fair Housing Act. This prohibits discrimination on the basis of the race, color, religion, sex, including sexual orientation and gender identity, national origin, handicap, or family status of any party or prospective party. For more information on North Carolina's Fair Housing Act, you have options. You may visit the website in the Fair Housing brochure sent to you by the real estate professional presenting this video, or you may scan the QR code in this video on your camera phone.
What does the word agency mean?
The relationship between a real estate agent and the buyer or seller who hires the agent is referred to as an agency relationship. Because the real estate agent acts on behalf of, meaning as an agent for the buyer or seller, also known as the client. In an agency relationship, the agent has certain duties and responsibilities to their client.
What is an agency agreement?
An agency agreement is a contract between you and a real estate firm that authorizes the firm and its agents to represent you. The agency agreement between buyers and agents is typically called a buyer agency agreement. Between sellers and agents, a listing agreement. Be sure to read and understand the agency agreement before you sign it. If you do not understand it, ask the agent to explain it. If you still do not understand, you may want to consult an attorney before signing the agreement. Your agent must give you a copy of the agreement after you sign it. Is there a standard length of time for agency agreements? No. The term or length of an agency agreement is negotiable. Real estate agents are allowed to determine their own policies for the lengths of their agency agreements. However, a prospective buyer or seller may request a different length of time than proposed by an agent. If an agreement cannot be reached with the agent, the buyer or seller may seek another real estate agent willing to agree to a different length of time. Every agency agreement must have a definite expiration date.
Here are some of the most frequently asked questions for sellers.
I want to sell my property. What do I need to know about working with real estate agents?
If you own real estate and want to sell it, you may want to list your property for sale with a real estate firm. If so, you will sign a written listing agreement authorizing the firm and its agents to represent you as your listing agent in your dealings with buyers. The real estate firm must enter into a written listing agreement with you before it is allowed to begin marketing or showing your property to prospective buyers, or taking any other steps to help you sell your property. Also, the listing firm may ask you to allow agents from other firms to show your property to their buyer clients.
What are a listing agent's duties to a seller?
If the real estate firm and its agents represent you, they must promote your best interests, be loyal to you, follow your lawful instructions, provide you with all material facts that could influence your decisions, use reasonable skill, care, and diligence, and account for all monies they handle for you. Once you have signed the listing agreement, the firm and its agents may not give any confidential information about you to prospective buyers or their agents during the agency relationship without your permission. But until you sign the listing agreement, you should avoid telling the listing agent anything you would not want a buyer to know.
What services might a listing agent provide?
To help you sell your property, a listing firm and its agents will offer to perform a number of services for you. These may include helping you price your property, advertising and marketing your property, giving you all required property disclosure forms for you to complete, negotiating for you the best possible price and terms, reviewing all written offers with you, and otherwise promoting your interests.
How is the listing firm compensated?
For representing you and helping you sell your property, you will pay the listing firm a sales commission or fee. The listing agreement must state the amount or method for determining the sales commission or fee and whether you will allow the firm to share its sales commission with agents representing the buyer. Buyer agents who participate in the multiple listing services must have written agreements with their agents prior to showing your property.
How is a listing agent compensated?
For representing you and helping you sell your property, you will pay the listing firm a sales commission or fee. The listing agreement must state the amount or method for determining the sales commission or fee. Sellers have the right to choose whether or not to offer and negotiate compensation to buyer agents. The buyer's agent will typically request the offer of compensation from the seller and may or may not require the buyer to pay the difference, if any, between the seller's offer of buyer commission and their agreement with their agent. Most buyer's agents will ask your listing agent to confirm your offer of compensation up front before an offer is made or submit a request for compensation with their offer. This creates transparency and outlines financial expectations of both buyer and seller clients.
If I am represented by a real estate firm that also has a buyer client who's interested in my home, how does that work?
You may permit the listing firm and its agents to represent you and a buyer at the same time. This would mean that the real estate firm and all of its agents would represent you and the buyer equally. This dual agency relationship will happen if an agent with your listing firm is working as a buyer's agent with someone who wants to purchase your property. If you have not already agreed to a dual agency relationship in your listing agreement, and this is acceptable to you, your listing agent will ask you to amend your listing agreement to permit the firm to act as agent for both you and the buyer. Any agreement between you and a firm that permits dual agency must be put in writing no later than the time the buyer makes an offer to purchase. Both you, as seller, and the buyer must consent in writing to dual agency. Any agreement between you and an agent that permits dual agency must be put in writing no later than the time you make an offer to purchase. All parties to the transaction must consent in writing to dual agency.
What is the risk if I agree to dual agency?
Dual agency creates a potential conflict of interest for the firm that represents you, since its loyalty is divided between you and the buyer. It is especially important that you have a clear understanding of what your relationship is with the firm and all of its individual agents, since all of them are dual agents. This can best be accomplished by putting the agreement in writing at the earliest possible time and asking any questions that you may have. A dual agent must treat buyers and sellers fairly and equally and cannot help one party gain an advantage over the other party. Although each dual agent owes both their clients the same duties, buyers and sellers can prohibit dual agents from divulging certain confidential information about them to the other party.
How can I reduce the risk if dual agency occurs?
To minimize conflicts of interest, some firms also offer a form of dual agency called designated dual agency, where one agent in the firm represents only the seller and another agent represents only the buyer. The firm and the firm's other agents remain in dual agency. This option, when offered by a firm, may allow each designated agent to more fully represent each party. Under designated dual agency, each agent designated to represent the buyer is prohibited from disclosing 1. That the seller may agree to any price or terms other than those established by the seller, 2. The seller's motivation for selling, and 3. Any information the seller has identified as confidential, unless otherwise required by statute or rule.
What happens if the listing agreement expires?
If the listing agreement expires after you entered into a contract to sell a property, then your agent may continue to represent you through the date of the closing, and you will be responsible for compensating the firm in accordance with the provisions of the listing agreement. If you are not under contract to sell your property when your listing agreement expires, then your agent must immediately stop representing you unless you first enter into a new listing agreement with the firm. There is a simple form your agent can send you to extend the agreement prior to its expiration date, along with negotiating additional terms if needed.
Can I sell my property without hiring a real estate agent?
Yes. In that case, you would be an unrepresented seller, often referred to as for sale by owner or FSBO. If you are selling your property without hiring an agent, then any agent involved in your transaction would be representing only the buyer. Do not share any confidential information with the buyer's agent. If the agent for the buyer asks you for compensation and you are willing to pay that agent, then you should enter into a written agreement that clearly expresses the terms and conditions of your obligation to pay the agent. Buyer's agents will request compensation from you, the seller, for presenting a willing and able buyer at the time of closing. Sellers are not required to compensate the buyer agent.
The buyer's agent can still help you identify the forms you need to complete, but will be unable to offer any recommendations. The agent must be fair with you and report any material facts such as the buyer's ability to close or facts they discover that would influence decisions about the property. But remember, the agent represents the buyer, not you, and therefore must try to obtain for the buyer the best possible purchase and terms for your property and cannot give you advice on selling your property if it will conflict with the buyer's interests. Furthermore, because they are loyal to their client, not you, remember that the buyer's agent is required to give the buyer any information about you, even personal, financial, or confidential information, that would help the buyer in the purchase of your property. Agents must tell you in writing if they are buyer's agents before they ask you about anything that can help their buyers. But if you don't choose to sign a listing agreement for agent representation of your property to potential buyers, you should avoid saying anything you do not want a buyer to know.
If I hire a real estate agent or firm to represent me, can I terminate the agency agreement before it expires?
Maybe. An agency agreement is a contract between a buyer or seller and a real estate firm. Most agency agreements do not contain a provision allowing a buyer or seller to terminate the agreement before it expires without the consent of the other party. Generally, one party cannot terminate the agreement without the consent of the other party. If you and the firm both agree to terminate the agreement, then you both should sign a written agency termination agreement. If the agent asks for compensation in exchange for terminating the agreement, then you can agree or disagree or try to negotiate the amount of compensation. If an agency agreement contains a penalty or fee for early termination, the provisions specifying the penalty or fee must be set forth in a clear and conspicuous manner. If you are not able to reach an agreement on the termination of the agency agreement, then you may consult your own attorney or simply wait until the agency agreement expires. The Real Estate Commission does not have the authority to terminate agency agreements or to force a real estate agent to terminate an agreement. At Nobilis Realty, we believe real estate relationships are more important than transactions. Our company mission includes elevating prosperity, igniting transformation, and enriching lives with real estate. We believe that real estate done right means more than just selling real estate. It means we are constantly working to earn your lifelong business based on our stellar service. Therefore, prior to a purchase agreement being affirmed, if you feel we are not meeting or exceeding your expectations as your agent, we will happily assist you with terminating the contract. If you are already under contract, we will address your concerns and continue to represent you in the best way through the end of your transaction. Thank you for taking the time to review this video. If you have any questions or for the next steps in your purchase process, please reach out to the agent who shared this information. We bid you much success in your property search, and we look forward to guiding you towards a smooth closing and beyond.